Everyone. Today I'm going to talk about Lost, and I'm going to talk about the pilot, the first part of the pilot. And interesting story with Lost is I came to it. I heard so many great things about it, so what I wanted to do was I wanted to binge watch Lost. It's slowly entering its final season, so I was like, I was going to try and catch up so I can watch the last season on air. But what ended up happening was I made some attempts on Netflix when I binge watched it later on. But I made some attempts first, and believe it or not, the first time I watched the pilot, I think I fell asleep. And I don't know what it was, but maybe I was tired. But I made a couple attempts to watch the pilot, but the pilot, although interesting, didn't really draw me into the story. Because when I first saw the pilot, I was like, well, it's a plane crash, we don't really know about anybody. It wasn't until later when the show introduced kind of like the flashbacks of the characters, then I really started getting into it because, you can relate to the characters more because, you learn a little bit more about the characters. But if it's just a bunch of people on an island wandering around, you don't know anything about them. You tend not to care for the characters. So the pilot really didn't draw me in until a couple of episodes later. And when I'll get to the episode that kind of drew me into the show. The episode that drew me into the show. But right now, it did take me a couple tries just to get to the pilot. But like I said, the pilot didn't get me at first. It didn't draw me in at first, even though there was the element of these survivors. There's something weird. There's something weird on the island.
Terrific.
And all the characters are introduced in the pilot. Like it was said, I believe Lost was probably one of the most expensive pilots to make. So how the first part of the pilot goes is, we have Jack, his eyes are open, he's waking up, and he's thrown right into the mix of the plane crash and everybody needing help. And it's not revealed till a couple episodes later, but he's a doctor and he's able to help the crash victim. So he goes and he helps different people. So what we really have happening in the pilot is the main character interactions after everybody is recovered from the plane crashing. We're introduced. We get some minor scenes, so we don't really know who the main characters are, other than Jack. We got a bunch of these survivors. We see Hurley. We see Koreans, but we don't really get much into that till later. We see her. Hurley. We also have a pregnant lady named Claire, Emily D. Rabin, which I'm familiar with her. I've seen her. I've done a reaction with her character in Once Upon a Time. Also, she's been in another show of mine called Roswell that I'm covering as well. But other than that, we have Claire, Hurley. We have a kind of like this Irish Charlie.
You all, everybody. You all, everybody. You never heard that song?
I've heard it. I just don't know what the
That's
hell.
us. Drive Shaft. Look, the ring. Second tour of Finland. You never heard of Drive Shaft?
And it's revealed he's kind of shady at first, so we don't really know a lot about him. Oh, he just seems a bit iffy after the accident, kind of on edge a little bit. But nothing bad about him. He just seems kind of like high strung. So that night we also introduced to Saeed, who we'll get into later. So what ends up happening is after everything's settled, and it's nighttime, and then they have a fire. The group of them get together, the main cast and the survivors. They kind of witness some weird thing in the distance, like a monster-like thing, and they don't really know what it is. Just we get like an ending comment from Charlie. Terrific. So that's kind of like what's this is when all the questions start coming up. What's that noise? What's that sound coming from? What's in there on the island? Are they alone? So that's kind of the questions they rise at first. And if you're watching Lost and you're new to Lost, get a pen and paper and write things down as a note, because there's going to be a lot of questions with this show. So what ends up happening is a group of people, they want to try and go to where the plane broke off. They want to see if there's anybody still left in that part of the plane. And I believe they're going down there to try and see if they could signal something with that airplane box thing. I don't know what it's called, but they try to go and find the rest of that plane that crashed. So they end up getting there, and it's a group of people. It's Charlie goes, Kate goes, and Jack goes, I believe. So they go and find this plane, the rest of part of the plane that broke off, and they end up going and finding. They end up finding the pilot of the plane, and he tells them that
they're looking for us in the wrong place.
They were flying off course. And moments later, this actor is really noticeable because I noticed him from, I think he was in Alias, some other shows as well. I don't know his name, but I remember him from Alias. Anyway, he gets killed off right away, and this monster thing from the plane and throws him somewhere. So it's freaking them out. So all of them are starting to run. Jack, Kate, and Charlie are running because what the hell is this thing that just swallowed this pilot and threw it somewhere? So they look up in the tree and they see the pilot.
It's the pilot.
Dead there in the tree. So here's a little trivia fact that I read is that they were initially gonna kill off the actual main character of the show, which is Jack the doctor. I think he was believed to actually die in the original script of the show, but they didn't. So they kept him around for whatever reason, but good choice. The show wouldn't have worked without him. So we get all that there, and that pretty much is how it goes. So they escape, and that's pretty much kind of how it ends, how the pilot ends.
How does something like that happen?
And so that's kind of how the pilot goes, and it didn't draw me at first because at first you don't know who these people are, you don't know their backgrounds, you don't know if they're good characters or bad characters, because you don't know where the story's going to go. You don't know if you're going to learn anything. Watching the pilot, you don't know if you're actually going to learn more about these characters or not until you get to the next episode. Until you get after the pilot, you start learning more about these characters. So when the show focused on on the characters, and we learn more about the characters, especially, I don't know which episode it is, but it's just about episode 4 or 5 is when I really started getting into the show with stories, and I saw where it was going. So anyway, guys, if you like this review, I am going to be going over the second part to the pilot, as well as also I'm going to be going through all the other episodes of this show slowly but surely. I'm going to give you guys my opinion on each episode. So other than that, if you guys like this review, stay tuned for more, and I'll see you guys in future reactions and reviews.